Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna call this meeting of the Arundel Planning Board, January 15th, 2018. Call it to order at 7:17, and I'll start with a roll call.
Marty Gaines.
Tom again.
Jamie Lowry.
Rich Ganong.
Jens Bergen.
Tad Redwood Planner.
Cool. We have on the agenda, first item is approval of the agenda. Anybody see anything in there that they,
I thought with the agenda being set, we have two that are related to animals. I think we should turn it to them first, so what a set precedent between 2 and 3, the ideas and thoughts instead of going to in order of number 1, 2, 3.
oh, so you think we should just move number 1 to the bottom?
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking both,
Yeah.
the idea because they're both
They're related.
related.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Go
got
along with
no
that.
problem with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on the agenda itself? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Yay.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Marty made the motion, and you seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
It is unanimous. So, we have approval of the minutes for January 11th, 2018. Any changes that anyone saw?
2. Minor ones, just a couple of name spellings.
I actually just noticed one as well in the approval of minutes section. Is Mr. Kane?
Correct. That was one, Corinne. The other one is Tim Stentiford.
It's an N, not a U?
Correct.
His handwriting's lousy, I
Okay.
I happen to know because I sued him a few years ago.
Any other changes?
No. Okay, so
Hearing none?
No,
I'll
it's
make
just
a motion that we accept with those 2 edits.
There was a
Yay.
second? Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Tom made the motion, Marty seconded. All those in favor?
Yay.
All right.
All right.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I assume that the planning board was pleased with the format of of the minutes and that it was not too brief.
I thought the format of the minutes was excellent.
Good, then I won't be getting those worries and emails anymore.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure.
A question about the agenda, oh, it's on there, it's citizens' comments, it's
Right,
at the
that
end.
is the next
Okay,
item,
all right.
citizens' comment. Since
Oh,
there are
yeah,
no
there.
citizens here,
You
I
have
can
any comments?
assume that
She's not a
nobody has a
citizen, she's
comment.
from Lyman.
She doesn't
Huh?
live in this
I am.
town.
I don't live here.
Can't speak then,
He's-
sorry.
I'm just saying, citizen, I
She's
just.
one of those immigrations we're trying to build a wall for.
Oh, okay.
On the
She's
line
a
border.
At the Lyman border, that's right. We're gonna move it down onto the Benefit side. Okay, land use ordinance revisions. No, don't go there,
Some
Jake.
humor is better left to yourself.
Okay, given that we've changed things around, the first one is, was labeled item 2, proposed amendments to the Arundel Land Use Ordinance, consideration of proposed revisions to section 9.3.19, the equestrian centers, with an emphasis on commercial stables supporting less than 10 animals, or 10 equidates, sorry.
To the chair.
Yeah, Marty?
Did we contact any of
Nope.
them for,
No.
because prior to all this, they wanted to be in, and then the head, who was heading it, didn't head it, so we took it for, to get it at least approved along the way at the time. Because there are also numerous places that have less than 10.
Nope, did not.
Okay.
Let's see where we go with this.
Now, just,
It's a good point, but, you know, there were questions that the chairman set the agenda last Friday. So, I scrambled with what I could at that point. I think that, you know, let's answer some, maybe we should discuss some of the questions in here and then get some,
Okay.
certainly feedback from that equestrian group. I still have the list of stables, you know, that mailing list, I still have that on file, so when the time comes, And we can have a focused discussion with them about this, because most of those, actually, as you're right, are gonna probably fall into the equestrian stable
Yeah,
instead of the commercial stable.
that's the only reason, you know,
Yeah, I am actually missing this thing here.
You are?
Yeah, for some reason I didn't print
I
it out.
have plenty.
Okay, great, thank
Does
you.
anybody else have any?
what's that?
You need the section 9319 equestrian facilities, and it's a summary with some questions.
No, I got that up.
No, that was in your
And the
folder.
original, for those of you who don't remember, do you know
I didn't,
I think you have
Get
the
that.
comments and issues.
Yeah,
yeah, I didn't get that one.
yeah, it had comments and issues. It just says
This
section
is the one,
9.
no, this is the one that came in the folder.
Right.
Around.
Landscape, yeah. I
You
think,
said,
I
I
did
think you
say
said you
those-
had everything printed out.
Yeah,
Tom,
I
that's
guess I
why-
didn't print that file.
Yeah, it's a good point to remember in the future, Marty. I think that definitely we need to make sure that that group is on board with what we're saying.
Well, that way too, we can't say we were stonewalling them or whatever else, no input.
Yeah. And I think we'll keep it the same way, that if they have recommendations, we do it in a meeting, and we don't make the mistake of having them go off as a work group.
Yeah, because that work group never
They never,
developed.
they never met.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I was
It was a year
referring
of
to.
wasted time. But, that means we still need their input on this, and if you read it over, there's really nothing much different about this. I mean, this was what the original text was for equestrian stable. There's really not much different about it. I mean, it's 10 or less, equines, and it's for breeding, boarding, personal use, training. The one revision, I left it in there, that you'll see the cross out in there, that one revision that the committee did provide was, they did not want a prohibition against indoor riding rinks. I think the reason why originally I had written no indoor riding rinks was the concern that when you have, indoor riding rink is a very expensive thing, even if you have a fabric one, they're expensive. So you have a tendency, you're not gonna ride there alone, you probably want some other people to ride, and before you know it, you might have events. You might have events during the winter time, in inclement weather, and that's where we run into the problem. I mean, the biggest problem we have with the equestrian stuff is events and training and teaching. Probably not teaching or dressage classes or anything like that, but it's when you have an event, you have a competition. And that's when you get a lot of people that come in, and that's when, if you don't have adequate parking, if it's not in the right location with your neighbors and so forth, you can cause some real problems. And so that was the idea. They said, no indoor riding rinks, well, Milda has one, and so, to be fair, they're right. I mean, if you happen to want your own personal indoor riding rink, why should you be deprived of that?
Right.
It's a good point.
And I don't have any problem saying, okay, if you want your own personal riding rink, and you have enough land to put it up,
Yeah.
not a problem. The minute you start charging somebody rental fees to use it, it becomes commercial and it has to close and move to a more suitable location.
Well, they're allowed to do commercial activities. Remember, this is not the home, and this is, I think, I discussed back in the comments and issues down below.
In the case of the person you just mentioned, that would be, that is a personal rink, that's not a
Yeah,
commercial rink.
but that doesn't mean the people who board their horses at her establishment can't use it.
Question whether she should be boarding her horses, it's a business in a residential area.
Are we distinguishing between indoor or outdoor now, or is this everything?
That's everything.
Right.
Well, I think that's the
problem.
that is the rub of what the people that are essentially opposed to the small operations being regulated are feeling, is that this has historically been a quasi farm type of unregulated operation, and now it's being looked at as more of a commercial operation. So, part of me, sits there and thinks, well, if the people that utilize this service, are of the mind that they don't mind pulling off into a soggy, grassed surface behind somebody's barn to get out and go do what they want to do on their horse, why should we have parking lot standards for them to do this, something that they're very comfortable with, and almost my take would be if you've got people that are boarding horses there, and there are amenities for those people, and the owner of it has whatever, keeps it up however they want, as long as the non, boarding outside public isn't really invited, why are we that concerned about it?
Well, that would limit one of the things they might do. And some of these smaller stables that we've got do that. They'll have dressage classes, and when you have, dressage, or if you're doing quarter horsing or something like that,
Yeah.
you'll have a class. And then
Okay.
you have a graduation where you have, it's like if your daughter goes to ballet school, she has a recital.
Right.
Well, you'll have a recital if you're paying a lot of money to go through a dressage class. You'll have a recital in which the kids will they'll get geared up, and they'll go out and, everybody gets to take a picture of them riding around, around the ring. And,
So I guess, from my perspective,
so you'll have cars there.
is this a real, on these 10 equine and less facilities, is it really a, big issue within the town of Arundel?
I would say probably not until you start getting into events, as I said.
Right.
You start having events, and that's when the problems come, because usually what happens is they don't have adequate parking, and there are trailers along the road, and
Now, question for you.
and they might not have an EMT there, like you're required to by state law.
Yeah,
And they might have concessions there. I've seen them with concessions, so.
But turn
Go
on,
ahead.
is that you said along the road, okay? If they're turning on large enough, they wouldn't be needed to be along the road because they would be on the property instead of along the road itself. And most of these people aren't wearing high heels and tuxedos and dinner dresses to these things. They're out there in their muck boots and
Yeah.
for the,
The other one who's wearing
Conditions
that
as needed.
riders.
you know.
Yeah, well, it's not that, this isn't,
And what roads are these likely to be happening on?
they could be on town roads, if they don't have adequate parking on it. It could be on town, if it's a bigger event, they fill up what they've got around the field and so
Mhm.
forth, and they'll park along the road. Probably not the trailers, because that's just, you're not gonna take a horse out on the road. But the people who come, grandma's coming to see little Joni do a dressage competition for 10-year-olds. And, so there's not a roof for them, so they might park on the road, that kind of thing. That's the concern, it's a public safety issue, make sure, from that standpoint. And the other issue is, the question of, remember, the issue also is, where's the manure pile? How's that being handled? Making sure the horses aren't, in a swamp, and the usual little things that we have in here.
What zones do we let these in?
We let them in every zone, every residential zone.
Okay, so we're gonna tell somebody, in the R1 district that because their neighbor has 30 acres of land, they can put up a stable next to their house?
Yep.
No, I'm not.
Having lived behind the Brooklyn NYPD stables at one point in my life, it's, a hot summer day, it ain't the best of both places.
Nope, it isn't. But, I think that's some of the stuff that we have to look at. We're talking about somebody running a business, if walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck, they're running a business. And you can dress it up any way you want. Well, you know, there's somebody and they've got a small little barn and they're renting out spaces in the barn. That's either a home occupation or a business. Either way, it's a for-profit operation. If we're going to be talking about business, I don't believe it belongs in the R1 district. If you put it in the R3 or the R4 district, you put it in the BI, you put it in the business districts, which is where we had originally designated some of these facilities for, I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem if it's in the R1.
Okay, question. New it would be. What about if something is existing or has existed?
If it's
allowed-
existing now, that's different than if it had existed prior and is no.
I mean, the
longer-
barn's still there.
I don't
That's what
care
I'm
if-
getting at.
I don't
mean,
care if the barn's still there. It's not an ongoing business, so it shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, it's more the operation.
Yeah, it loses it after 2 years. If 2 years of discontinuance legally, the business doesn't exist.
Was it considered a business? I mean, like, why I'm asking the case, okay? That where we had, this controversy about daycare, okay?
Which daycare?
Dog daycare, or whatever else they, okay?
Yeah.
That particular place, okay, has been and always, as I've known it, since the 70s, has always had horses and everything else there. Maybe boarding them, may not be boarding them or anything else. But I mean, it's still existing along the way. And that might be, and I don't know what zone that's in, the R1 or R2, I mean, so I mean, it was there way before the houses were there built.
Yeah, but that's a basic premise, that's a principle of land use law, that an existing land use is called a non-conforming use unless they can conform to this ordinance, and then they become a conforming use. But they're a legally non-conforming use, then they can continue operation. The problem is when they start getting into expansion. Now, are we gonna go out and count horses? No. Quite frankly, we're not. We'll count horses when a neighbor complains, quite frankly. But it's not our job to go around and peek in people's stables or in, in their windows all the time. We don't wanna do that, and the town doesn't wanna do that. So, but it's illegally non-conforming. If any of these facilities has more than, let's say, 10 horses, and they can't have a commercial, where can't you have a commercial? In the residential one, you can't have a commercial stable, right? So if you can't have a commercial stable, but you have more than 10 more than, what is it? If you have 11 horses, technically you're a commercial stable. Are we gonna bust them for that? No. No, why would we? It's an existing
were there.
use. The legally non-conforming use.
Okay, I'm just,
It's like, I was gonna use the boat building as we actually did approve that. But, it's like something that's been there forever, and, you're not gonna call it, Mark Walsh's pit was there before zoning.
yeah,
Do we make them shut down, and we say you can't do that? No. We call it legally non-conforming use. So, the issue, and Jamie's bringing up the central issue, this issue is in the comments and issues. Central issue is, this is the majority of stables we have in this town are usually under the 11, right, in this category.
Right.
And the only reason they're here is because they're conducting a commercial operation by teaching classes or by boarding other horses. Now, the only other way to do this would be to say, okay, by right, you can have a stable, your own stable, and you can board up to X number of horses, but you can't teach classes. We could have that, so there'd be almost like a fourth category. So that a lot of people who have the backyard stable and may have, if you have a stable, usually you have a friend or two who wants to board a horse there because they don't have room or the place they are is too expensive. And, so that happens, that's a normal
I don't really
course of
see it
action.
as a problem.
It isn't a problem. It isn't a problem until you start getting people, the public coming. That's when the problems really come up. And then the offsets from, if you're in an R1 district, for instance, where you've got 1 acre zoning, a stable with 11 horses could be an impact. Where the manure pile is, could be an impact. You know,
To have that many horses or anything else, you have to have more than 1 acre.
You might have more than 1 acre, you might be in the R1 zone and have 30 acres,
Right.
that, you're in the R1 zone. I have a problem allowing business in the R1 zone.
Okay?
It is a residential neighborhood and should be treated as such, which means no, if you have an existing business, your existing business is grandfathered in, but no new business should go into that zone.
But I see that is being a flaw more in our zoning map than anything, where we've got, if I remember correctly, we've got a lot of R1 zone in, you know, quasi-rural.
But the solution to
Areas.
that is to correct the map.
Right.
You know, in the meantime, it's an R1. Fix the map, maybe it becomes an R2 or an R3.
Right.
Yes,
That's an issue of fixing the map, not saying, well, we're gonna let you have a new business in the R1 zone.
okay, coming along the map issue, it wasn't us that wanted to create more area in R1. That comes back to your comprehensive plan.
Yep.
yeah, but I mean.
I'm just saying.
Oh, I
mean,
understand that, Marty, but what do we do? Because we have a legally ratified comp plan and a legally ratified comp plan map in which our zoning map follows. So what do you do? I mean, this is what's been ratified by the town. The only thing that could happen would be to go back to the comp plan committee and say, we wanna look at changing some of the boundaries. Which is interesting, because we've just gone through 3 years of that issue of changing boundaries, and they frankly ratifying some of the business zones that this board wanted to institute in order to create more business opportunities in the town. And so that's actually why they convened, and then they dealt with residential, because you just don't deal with one business. When you're dealing with the zoning districts, you're not just dealing with the business, they had to deal with the residential as well.
Yeah, well, they created the BI district, okay?
That was, yeah, but remember, we've had several iterations since that event. in
Yeah, but they created the
2007.
BI district, and the BI district has been useless because it's not buildable,
Well,
per se.
for
And that
its
was a-
intent, no, it isn't. For its intent as a high industrial area, it isn't, because of topography and soil conditions. But I'll also say the lack of infrastructure also makes it highly undesirable for high-intensity industry. It has no services, it has no gas, it does have three-phase power, but it has no gas, it has no sewer. Two critical elements for that particular business that we want to attract. If we're serious about that, then we develop a process, a way of getting some of that infrastructure in there, but at this point, there hasn't been that. We've actually gone a kind of different direction. The BI is kind of changing a little bit because we put a lot of our future hopes into this, frankly, the resort community, which is a totally different animal than anybody ever envisioned. But it's working, bless you, it's working. I mean, if anything, we should be maybe looking at saying, the
Expand
BI
it.
is the wrong zoning for that district, because we're not getting, Sterling Rope's not looking to move into Arundel. And thank goodness Arundel Machine keeps wanting it to expand, but they're, Daniel Defense isn't moving here, let's put it that way.
With the horse thing, I think we have a couple of different issues. One is, do they belong in R1? The other is the commercial, whether it's in R4 or not, the commercial type. I think we need to keep them, we need to address them both independently. And kind of what Marty said, he didn't quite see the problem. I don't know if I quite see it either. And even if there was a horse right next door, to me,
But if it was one horse or even two horses, it may not be a problem.
yeah,
What if it's 6, 7, 8, 10?
that's a problem.
Right.
Well,
It
it
depends
But if
where in
someone
the
had
R
30
one it is.
maybe
though.
some setbacks, if someone had 30 acres next door to me, and there's
But
a
that's
30
where-
acre
Yeah,
parcel.
there is.
That's
If
where,
they had, maybe 100-foot setback for where the manure can be piled or whatever, I'd be all right, maybe we need something like that, if they're in, a tight residential area.
And if they had a stallion.
Well, Tom, don't forget, hey, it's like turn out saying we can't turn out and have that, but we got the train tracks behind it. I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, I think we need to, I mean, this sort of, what came out of this was based on some last minute comments, you know,
Yeah.
when we were approving this. And we
Right.
sort of took what we figured was the best thing to get the two commercial items approved.
Passed.
And sort of left the other off to the side. I think we need to, really before we get into this too hard, we need to invite the group that was behind this, that was, you know, sitting out in the audience that night and say, let's have a workshop and let's figure out what, you know, we've got some reservations of having, you know, up to 10 equines being able to be boarded with little to no regulation. What are, you know, where can we come to an agreement to say, okay, this, you know, this group over here we see as you know, a small farm, and this group is more of a commercial operation.
Yeah, defining what
Right.
that line is.
Yep.
really- I think we should propose it, because if we don't have a focused workshop with that group, it's gonna drift off into all sorts of directions. And it may come back to the stuff we've already worked on, which we don't wanna do. But I think we need to frame it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll drift.
Yeah.
Now, here's another question, Terrell. We keep calling it equine, why can't we just simply call it horses, okay? The next thing is,
Because there's donkeys and mules too.
Yeah,
what about your miniature horses?
That too.
right, ponies.
I mean,
Ponies.
yeah, I mean, it's still a horse, it still has 4 legs,
Well,
It's still
well,
So's a cow.
So's a cow, yeah.
yeah.
No,
No,
equine,
we're not making cat food, I mean, or dog food, I mean,
equine, the equestrians being called equestrians anyways,
Right.
you know?
okay.
And the technical, it's to include them all, so we don't get somebody coming
I
under the
mean,
wire.
so we're politically correct?
No, so we're accurate. So we're covering all the bases.
Can't
I
use the
guess,
word ass.
I mean,
though.
you know, maybe
That's.
we propose a number
Yeah.
less than 10,
Yeah,
evidently, that
10 or less?
would fall into the equestrian stable. I almost wonder if a commercial stable would be from, you know, anything more than whatever number we set in the commercial stable would be anything we set in the non-commercial phase, but also enable you know, somebody that has less than that. Maybe you only want a board 4 there at one time, but you want to have the opportunity to bring in some other amount of horses to do big events. Why couldn't, you know, could they do a commercial stable while only boarding 4 horses?
Yeah, why not?
If
Yeah,
they,
you
were-
could.
if they
If
met
that's
their
their intent.
criteria.
I'm not, I'm,
I'm not saying you couldn't.
right,
Those were kind of like the yardsticks we were using.
yeah.
If you wanna make it basically, now it requires to rewrite, which is, you know, okay, so we rewrite, we do repeal and adopt. But that would mean that we would stop using the number of horses as the measuring stick, and it would be the activities that occur that would be the measure.
The activities to me seem more legitimate, almost like the doggy daycare. We don't care if people have pet dogs, but once they start taking in the dogs for pay, then it changes everything.
Mhm.
The same with horses, if they have 1, 3, 8 horses, and if they're all their own.
Well, yeah,
But
remember,
once they open it up,
but it's for commercial purposes, I mean, we haven't even gotten to the issue of having how many
That's what I'm
horses you
saying.
have for yourself.
commercial
Right.
or personal, if someone has a few horses in the yard and they have enough room,
Right,
enough land, that's different than someone who's bringing in the public for, as a
Yep.
business.
and it's
Much
bringing in
different.
the public, I think is
Yeah.
really more the issue. It's not that you're boarding somebody else, a friend's horse. It's that if you're boarding horses and they're riding and then they're having events, they're having lessons, they're having the events that always, the graduation or the exhibitions that automatically always come with lessons. You know, especially with kids, you know, as I said, the dance recital is a perfect example. Same thing with horses. If you teach kids dressage, if you teach dressage, you're gonna have you know, an event in which the kids get to show their skills.
So, could we focus the definition around an income-generating event other than the boarding of horses?
Yeah, and at the same time, if you're boarding 50 horses, I mean.
That's, yeah, and
you
set a
should
standard.
include
Right.
that too. I mean,
Oh,
it
yeah,
should be
you
something
definitely
where,
wanna set a
if you're
standard
really, if
number.
you're also boarding horses, I mean, that brings in another animal.
Yeah, say boarding
Because then it's gonna
up
be training,
to,
there's gonna be training, there's gonna be,
or you see, yeah, it's an income-generating activity other than boarding horses, which are restricted to 4, 6, 8, pick a number.
well, that's a problem, it's arbitrary capricious. But
So
at
what?
some point, you have to pick.
Well,
a
but
number.
yeah, we
That's
do
right.
You have
that
to-
with,
you have to have
we
a-
do that with buffering
We
around
do that
parking
with
spaces
That's
and
right.
all
Oh,
kinds
yeah.
of other stuff.
Space and bulk is all arbitrary.
Right.
So,
Yeah, at some point you have to pick a number and say, okay, what's that number gonna be?
Right.
And that would go back to the question of how many horses are personal?
Right.
You know, how many people are in the house? There's 2 people in the house, but we've got 16 horses. Really?
Depends.
and that's kind of why I went with, originally with the numbers, because.
It's a
Yeah.
cut and dry, it's easy
It's
from an
cut and dry.
enforcement standpoint.
Yep.
It's cut and dry from that standpoint. And if you have to, there are very few people who have 10 of their own personal horses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, that's a
very-
lot.
Unless you live in Kentucky.
That's, exactly.
No, New
And if you
Jersey.
live in Kentucky, you're racing. You're raising them, you're racing, you're breeding, you're in business.
New Jersey.
Eastern
Another
Shore,
one.
Eastern Shore is a big place too.
New York.
So,
But they have a lot of more open land too.
Can I ask a question? For the equestrian stables, the way it's defined, how many of them do we have in the R1 and R2 districts currently?
Got a few, but I'm not sure how many.
I don't think there's that many. I think we've got 2.
2 in R1?
Yeah, we've got Chris's down here, and then we've got High Stepping. That's not R1, that's R2.
High Stepping is off of Old
River
Post.
Road, yeah, it's River Road. There's
The
one
road
on
at
Old
the
Post.
tracks?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
at
right
the
at
ra-
tracks.
railroad
At
tracks.
the railroad tracks. Is that Old- No, that's River Road, isn't it?
That's River
That
Road.
Yeah, that's
is
River
River
Road.
Road, okay. I'm thinking of,
There's another, go ahead.
what, there's a side road that goes off of, Old Post Road, just before the bridge. It goes over and turns into Senate Road. Is there not, I thought there was a stable
There
down there.
used to be, I don't think there is anymore.
Oh.
I don't think it's running.
No.
Where is this? Old Post.
Old Post, just before it turns into.
Senate.
Yeah,
Senate
Old
Road.
Post takes that left, and you go
Yeah,
over the
it's low.
bridge, and it's
Right.
Senate.
Little road
It's just
there.
before that on the right-hand
stable.
side.
I don't think so.
I
I
thought
don't
there
think
was
there's anything in there
Nothing
now.
down in there?
There was at one point, I think there was some paddocks there.
Oh, yes. I know where you, no, they are, that's where it turned out
It's gonna,
yes. They still breed, still have horses in there.
do they?
Yeah, they, almost across the street from Carl Dana's,
Yeah,
Correct,
yeah.
down through there. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if they were active.
yeah,
Okay, so, all right, there's,
that's Jimmy,
that's in the R3 though.
And what's the other one, said, the one right near the town hall? Yep.
Well, yeah, Chris is right up there, yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Woodward's is
Okay.
right up there.
It's
That's-
R-
that's
She's in the
that's
R1.
That's
Two.
the R1.
It's R2.
And Mills is
So
what?
he's in the R two.
She's R4.
And
Is
high
Mills
stepping, I
R4?
think, is an R two.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, she's.
I'm
way
just
down.
using that.
Yeah, I know she's way down, but
That's all R4.
And then R four is, Milda's in the R four, and the ones out on Thompson are on the R four. And, Amanda Boutette's is in the R four. And she actually qualifies as a equestrian center.
does that one on
She's got a
Trout Brook and
huge
Hill, is
facility.
that,
Is what?
the one at Trout Brook and Hill, is that, do they board horses there, or is it just
I
cattle?
don't know if they board, they have horses,
They say they have a pony or a horse or something that they put in that front, but.
but I don't know if they board.
Yeah, I'm not sure, that's why I was asking.
Usually there's signs, but not always, you know. So, I guess it comes down to, how do you wanna proceed? I know we wanna have a meeting with them, but I mean, we're still stuck in the issue of, how do we separate the person who wants a bunch of horses and may board a couple of friends' horses, but doesn't have events? Or doesn't have any, anything that attracts the public versus, somebody who actually does have, offers, I'm just looking at what they offer, training. It's
I think the way you have it defined, the equestrian stable, to me, looks great.
Yeah.
It's for the purpose of boarding, breeding, personal use, or training, provided the training is limited to those.
But maybe we
So
look to
maybe a
drop
personal.
that number. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
or-
the 10 is,
or,
seems a little
Ten's
or
high.
high.
personal.
Yeah,
Sounds high.
yeah, but that's something we rolled over on that, just to get it done, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
We-
Cut it in half and make it 5.
Yeah,
That's
probably won't
arbitrary,
fly. Yeah.
That's picking a fight, though.
I think it is
And
pretty.
the reason why I asked how many are there, like, if we did drop to 5, how many would be affected? How many existing ones?
Think-
In R1,
In
in
R1,
what
or-
particular?
We'd have to look at.
Around here,
Just-
I think not a lot of people would qualify. I think Chris has less than 5.
But that would,
So then it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, because we don't wanna have them be opposed and then they all become opposed, you know? And so I don't.
well, unless the standards, if somebody did have, say, 8, even though they were allowed, unless they felt the standards of a commercial stable were too onerous, that's where they would be, would voice a dissension.
Yeah, it's saying, what we're saying is, at 11, you're in a different animal. You're in a different breed.
Group.
So I would look to, if we're gonna do this, I would look to alter that and have the commercial equestrian stable just be a facility where no more than 30 are kept for all those different uses. You can have one horse there.
But if you're doing
If
events.
you're doing events, you're a commercial stable.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Do the equestrian stable, I would maybe say 6, because it does open it up into the R1, and say no more than 6 for, personal and, I don't know how we, and horses boarded on the premises. Let it be there. And then, anything sort of beyond that, you get into the commercial.
So is R1 the real rub here?
With Rich.
It is with me.
It is, the R1 is. And anybody new who
And-
wants to come in and somebody wants to somebody has a 10-acre parcel off of Clearview,
It's not somebody we're gonna be fighting with about, though.
probably not.
Right, so, and how many did you say are in R1 now?
I think I'm only counting one in
Just
my
the
mind.
one.
I'm just thinking of Chris. And she's changing over into a doggy daycare.
But she also wants to keep her.
There is a family there on New Road that has a horse,
There is, isn't there?
but
But I think that's
It's a horse.
that's
Right.
a horse.
right.
Of course. And that's something we get into when we talk about animal husbandry, because that's still an issue. I mean, if you probably noticed that, the issue still is, all we regulate ever is commercial livestock. And in a sense, that's what this stuff is. This is commercial livestock. It's different for horses than it is for food.
So we'd be looking, though, at cutting this down, we'd be looking at an equestrian stable and a commercial equestrian stable.
No, we're keeping the,
Are we
The
keeping the center, the
equestrian
equestrian
center.
center?
yeah. And we're
Oh,
saying-
yeah, oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking to do anything to
Oh, okay.
alter sort of other than that one part of the commercial, where we take out the 11, drop the minimum down. I don't see where we need to tweak that everybody seemed okay with those two items.
So then the equestrian stable, the basic stable, is no longer really a commercial use. We're gonna drop that as a commercial use and make that more of, that be a conditional use for like,
Well, the boarding would be the only commercial part of it.
okay.
But if that's gonna be the only commercial part of it, why not just have the equestrian stable and the equestrian center? We don't need the commercial equestrian stable. And we just change the number. It says, instead of a facility where more than 30, we just take out the 30 and we just add in the part that you were saying, you're going to have more than one and you're gonna be offering riding lessons and rodeos and dressage and all of the other training and everything that goes with it. You can have more than 30 horses if you've got the space and you wanna board them, but you could also have less.
Well, no, with a commercial equestrian stable, you wouldn't have more than 30.
But I'm saying, why not?
Cause it's a
Why not?
smaller operation.
Why not just eliminate the commercial equestrian stable completely? If the purpose for the commercial equestrian stable is to allow somebody to be able to board horses.
Cause they have
Board
stricter
more than 6
standards.
or 8 or 10.
Cause they have stricter standards. That's why. Cause it's a big operation.
Right, if you're gonna have that level of traffic coming in and out, then, events and things like that, you wanna have the,
But you're not
To
gonna
be
have
honest
events
with
in
you.
the commercial equestrian stable.
why not?
You're gonna have, oh, you are having this. I'm sorry, I didn't see it in this.
Yeah,
I'll tell you honestly, it was patterned after Pineland.
We don't have that much land in Arundel.
Well, the Pineland Equestrian Center, which has
Okay,
60
Pineland's a
horses.
big place,
I know. They're there too many times.
So 30,
as a guest.
No, they have lousy alarm
there's,
system.
there's no
Yeah.
facility right now even close to 30. What's the most,
No.
like,
No.
Milton might have like 12, 11, 8, I don't know, but.
Around here, but although Amanda's got a bigger amount, Amanda's got a potential to go to over 30.
She does.
She's
Oh, yeah.
the one up on Thompson Road?
Yeah. In fact, she's gonna come and make an application, I'll have to tell her that she wants to go commercial, she
Oh,
wants
yeah.
to come and make the
And
application.
is she hoping to be a full equestrian center?
Yeah.
And things?
Actually, her grandfather and I had a number of talks who, I don't think she's gonna follow through on it, but the original idea was to make it, he also wanted to put in a subdivision up there around the equestrian center and make, basically catering to an equestrian crowd, and you keep your horses right there at the stable, and you can walk to the stable that it's arriving and so forth, and it would be an equestrian oriented subdivision, which is a cool idea, but Ronnie unfortunately.
Until you get somebody who sells it and doesn't like horses and buys into it.
But then you would say, why would you buy into a place that's equestrian oriented? So
Because they like the house.
that's true, but you know,
It's just
that-
like how you have somebody
that's
that
life.
moved down to Cape Porpoise, loved the view, but didn't like the foghorn. And turned out then they made them shut the foghorn down.
Well, I'm thinking of it more of a golf course community,
yeah.
where people who don't play golf move into a golf course community, they don't shut down the golf course.
No, they watch the sights.
They steal the balls.
Okay.
They can put up netting.
Exactly. They can- Which isn't such a bad idea
So you,
sometimes.
so the equestrian center is gonna be more than 30, but the
In order to-
commercial, right,
Yeah.
but the commercial equestrian will be any
Up to
number
30.
up to 30.
So
Okay.
30 seems
I don't know,
so
it's just-
high to me.
It does to, 12 horses seems like a lot to me.
It does to me.
And I just, so to me, it seems like why do we have those two? Why not just have one?
Well, you see, the way they're looking at it this way, so that if you got a barn big enough for 30, okay, there's more taxes.
No, I'm looking at the two definitions.
But you aren't putting anybody in school.
They don't, they look almost identical,
Yeah,
We're
and
reworking the stuff we've already passed, we're supposed to be
Right.
reworking the equestrian
no,
stable,
that's
the
true.
stuff that we
Something
jettisoned
simple, not-
originally.
Yeah.
so I guess the question for equestrian stables, how many horses?
10 it was.
Do we wanna leave it at 10, or do we think 10 is too many?
I
I
think
don't
it's
know.
too many, but it's
So-
worth a fight.
So,
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right, I agree.
Yeah, maybe we could
Leave it.
leave that and go after.
I think that what I was thinking is, if you have 10 horses,
well,
you're doing business.
but to,
That's what I've felt all the way.
Yeah.
No one, and that was even their comments, well, we have to have some, some boarding income,
Of
because,
course,
because
it
to help
costs,
to
it
cover
costs a
the-
lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Grain's
That's right.
expensive,
And if you're doing it
that's the
to
worst.
generate income, then it
it's a
belongs in the commercial
Right.
section.
But then.
But it's not
then
hurting
we-
anybody, why?
Yeah,
Because it's being done for commercial
I don't wanna push
purposes.
a stable in business on
I think,
What do I have to say that they're gonna be in a business zone? You guys
This
say
is
that
country,
you wanna
this
leave
is
them
supposed to be rural
in the other
country.
areas. I just don't want them in the R1. I don't care if they're in the. if
Well, they aren't in the R1.
I asked you where they
Oh,
were
but
allowed, you
one.
said everywhere.
No,
Commercial-
read it at the bottom, you
commercial
just went by
stables
it.
aren't.
You went by it.
Commercial stables aren't, but equestrian stables are. An equestrian stable can have 10 horses.
Yeah.
That's a commercial operation. I don't believe it belongs in the R1.
Okay,
I don't think it's fair to characterize it necessarily as commercial.
It's generating income. By definition, it's a commercial
I think it
operation.
probably generates enough income just to meet expenses. These are hobbyists.
Right.
I would agree.
Think about it. I mean, you gonna make a living off boarding 6 horses?
I'm not saying you're
Hope
gonna make a living off it, but you
Yeah.
the purpose of having it is to generate the income to support something that you wanna do. That's a commercial purpose.
I guess the question is a small stable, incompatible with residential uses? That's the bigger question.
I think a stable of 10 horses is incompatible.
Depends on if they're neighing or not.
So, I mean, and that's where, you know, from Rich's concern, what I'm wondering is, do we have no more than 6 in the R1 and up to 10 in other districts?
We can do that,
Right, it's just words on a paper.
that's a good way of doing it,
yeah, we can do that. We're gonna have to do that with,
Right,
frankly, we're gonna have to do that with animal husbandry, when we get to that.
yep,
It's
Yeah.
gonna have to be district-based.
right.
So 6 in R1, and the other district's 10.
Well,
Well, the other district is up to 30 for one, and then over 30
well,
for the
the,
other.
you
And
know,
how
you
many-
might be in R1, but turn out if you have the acreage, okay, it's not like you're turning on doing it on a 1 acre lot. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to have the acreage to support what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a good point, Mike. And that's why
That's-
that's why we have it. Basically, 2 horses per acre is what our rule is. In this, and
So, and one example would be like the Mellon Young property that, what's the name now?
Annette.
Annette.
yeah,
That wouldn't harm anybody if that field had 10 horses in it.
Where, Tom?
It's right,
over here.
Mountain Road.
right across from.
Eastern Trail.
From the, yeah, down,
That's,
just
Just
beyond the
past
fire
the fire
station.
station.
Annette?
Oh,
West side.
Annette?
Where-
Yeah.
where-
now you
places.
bought it.
Yeah, right,
Yeah, yeah.
right on the eastern
Right.
trail.
New,
That
yeah, that'd
big
be a wonderful
30-acre
place. Yeah.
open space. And we'd all love seeing it, driving by
Sure.
there. I think it would enhance the whole town image.
oh, wait until you put his cows down there.
Cows might be a little more smelly, but that's an R1 zone right there.
no, it's an R2.
Mm,
not
no,
based on,
Well, this,
I don't
it
think
sounds
that.
2007, Matt.
yeah, no, it's R1 'cause it's on Limerick Road.
right?
No.
No, Limerick,
Oh,
I'm on
Tom's
Limerick Road, I'm in an
right,
R2.
Tom's right, but the
Well, you're in
cleared
another-
area on Mountain Road he did is in the R two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so going down that
Okay,
way,
so,
that
you're
too.
saying keep
On the
going.
Maryland Young property,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
I
which is
think
all
he
right.
has,
Right.
he has full, you know what he intends to do? He
Yeah.
intends to do sheep on the R one district because we have animal units. And a sheep,
get
he
more out
can
of
get
sheep.
more out of 5,000 pounds than he can, 5,000 pounds of sheep, you can get a lot more sheep than you can 5,000 of highway
Depends
cattle.
if he weighs them when they've been shorn.
That's-
Well, now,
He'll
if you,
figure
hey,
that out.
It's
Well,
not
now-
necessarily true.
now, here's the next thing is, if you have sheep, okay, you may have a sheep event, okay? No, I mean,
Next, we're gonna worry about a pig being at
Oh,
the
well.
sheep event.
no, I'm talking about, no. I mean,
Well,
with
it's a
dogs
fast
and training, I mean,
When they do the
well,
sharing and all that.
no,
And the
as,
dog.
and Bert used to raise his dog,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
turn around, and that's what I'm calling, you know,
Yeah.
herding them and everything else.
man, that'd be great if we had sheep trials, sheepdog trials there would be great. You need a pig.
What, the roast?
No,
Oh,
Yeah.
Dave,
like Dave,
the pig, the thing, it's a sheepdog.
Movie.
yes.
Oh, Marty, you don't
feel
go to
bad,
the movies
Marty.
enough.
I'm
His
with you.
kids were too old.
Yeah, he has, you gotta go out with your grandkids. All right, anyway, all right, so 6. There's a good bargain, there's a good topic of conversation.
Right,
With the
you
question.
wanna throw something out to them
Yeah, here we go, we're thinking of dropping this down to 6,
in the R1.
in the
In the
R1.
R1 only.
Yep,
And there's nobody that gets implicated with that currently.
maybe Chris, but I think she's only got 4. When I was talking to her, I think she only had 4 horses.
Hey, here's another thought, hey,
High stepping. Yeah.
No, not High Steppin', she's at, Mary May. Stable.
on that numbers, can we turn around and throw something out as a thought? I mean, 2 horses per acre. I mean,
That's what we got right now.
yeah, but no, I'm just saying, instead of trying to pick a number out of a, as a guideline. That's what I'm using it.
Have both, no more than 6, but still has to be.
Yeah, but if you got 10 acres,
No more
Anybody-
than,
Well, that's
no more than
what
6.
In
we're
the R1,
wondering.
no more than 6.
okay.
And here's the logic, Marty. The logic is that 10-acre lots eventually aren't gonna be 10-acre lots. If you're in an R1 district, people are gonna wanna, at some point, develop their land to the maximum amount at 1 acre. And that will fill in at one point as a high-density residential neighborhood. And if you don't think so, try changing the zoning there. Try changing the zoning to a 3-acre zone and see them coming out with firebrands and pitchforks.
And the issue becomes, if you're allowed to have, you've got 20 acres, using your math, you're gonna be allowed to have 40 horses in the R1 zone, and then the guy starts selling off the land, and he's still gonna be allowed to have 40 horses, and he's gonna have 6 acres of land.
Well, what I was trying to say is, use that as a guideline, but still leave up to no more than 10. That's what I was trying to go at. That's where I was going at my thought.
Yeah, and you're
Okay.
right, and that's what's in there right now.
So then I don't.
It's in there because
that's-
it says maximum number of horses boarded, excuse me, I'm sorry, where is it? Just, what the heck is it? Why can't I find it now, figures?
I didn't see it, that's why I asked.
I hate half acre. Should be 2 equines per half acre. And but that's number of horses boarded,
1 equine per half acre, up to 10 equines.
yep. But that's the number of horses boarded. And I think boarded is a bad term there. I shouldn't say that because we're assuming, because that's confusing terms.
Just describe it as being on site.
On site, exactly, good point. Because boarding means for, keeping them for a price, and board, in this it meant having them on site.
It's not a bed and breakfast for the horse. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Bed and breakfast for horses, I mean, Or
It's a
your,
boarding house, that's why they call it boarding. Ham and eggs for lunch. All right, well, that's good, so we'll go 6, and then we'll ask them in and say, this is what we're thinking. What do you think? What do you guys think?
And what about the, for the other, what's the commercial, we're gonna keep that between 11 and 30, or
Yeah.
just get rid of the 30? Get rid of the 11,
Up to 30.
keep the,
Yeah, I was thinking that the two of them should be combined together and it should just be the one standard, but,
I think that too, just simplify things.
Yeah, but.
because everything, it's the same. The language is the same, the descriptions are the same.
No, the uses are different. We're,
Show us where that,
see, it starts talking about riding lessons, rodeos, dressage, shows, or training.
yeah,
Right.
it's definitely
Okay, that's a
both
lot
places.
different than,
That's the commercial stable.
that's a commercial stable than boarding, breeding, personal use, or training.
No, we're talking about the equestrian center. The equestrian center and the equestrian stable commercial are almost identical.
yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Oh, do we have to change everything all over again?
No, we're just saying just combine the two of them together.
No.
one other thing we didn't mention in between all this,
Let's look at-
Go over
let's
that.
look-
Let me go over that a little
Wait.
bit.
I
one
thought,
thing
look
we
at it.
didn't mention,
Okay, it looks like.
which
it's
has
the same.
become very important and along the way, is therapy.
Yes.
I thought the standards for the equestrian center were much
I
higher
think they are higher.
because of the more intensive use.
Yeah.
They could be,
than
but if you look at the ordinance, they're identical.
the standards or the definition?
The definitions.
Definitions are.
Definitions.
Right, so,
Except for
so
the
you've
number.
got, the number requires a little more intensive infrastructure because of the amount
And if
that
you-
is gonna be going in, you know,
In that case, you-
associated traffic and events and everything else.
Right. And if you go to 6, if you go,
Minimum lot size is 5,
In that
maximum
case,
number
we
of
going
need
horses,
to require parking.
on-site parking.
Right.
Roads.
Right.
Yeah.
driveway design.
bigger driveway design,
Yep,
I remember that.
Yeah, because it's an 8-lot private way.
Yeah. It's a it's not paved.
Driveway.
As opposed to a 3-lot private
It's
way.
18 feet. It's an 18 feet, it's basically
or
a
an
3-lot,
equestrian center.
Right.
yeah, for an equestrian center. It's a big, it's a
Yeah.
road.
Right, you're putting in more of a,
You're putting in, a lot more traffic.
right,
You're assuming you're gonna have a lot more traffic.
Okay.
So I think that was one of the reasons
That,
we made that separation. Not that we wanted more categories, it's not fun to have more categories, but.
come on, as a town, as a planner,
that's,
you
that
love more
seems to
categories.
be,
No, 'cause I gotta
Honestly-
keep track of them.
the driveway design seems to be the only difference between them. When you look
Yeah,
at minimum
probably
lot size.
driveway parking,
Well, take
you
a
know.
look at also illumination, I think is another one too.
It's not listed in the, as being specific
So,
to either one of them. I think it's the general standard, I'm not sure. Yeah, lighting of outdoor lighting of riding rinks, paddocks, corrals, corrals. Yeah, that needs to be changed.
So-
It's missing an R.
since,
Shall meet the follow, we got
It's a-
coral on there.
You got a reef, they're gonna,
would there be anything preventing,
Okay,
What's
but
the
that's
term-
a,
what's the
that's a
horse
general
term for jump?
performance standard for all of the area.
Yeah, it is.
is there anything preventing the commercial equestrian stable from having events?
no, I think that's the point.
No,
is that
point,
it's
so-
gonna be,
It
For
it
smaller
specifically
events.
says that they can. They
Yeah.
can have
Yeah,
rodeos
yeah,
and
so-
dressage.
I think
And with
it's,
third, so it doesn't matter if they have 5 horses, they can still have events.
Right.
That could bring in just as many people
There's
as,
a reason
And
why
so
we
could
call
the
it-
equestrian center.
I'm trying to-
yeah.
The only difference that I see between the two of them is the driveway standard.
And I think it's important that if there are gonna be a lot of big events, where there's gonna be 150 people coming in, we need to have parking and
I agree.
driveways
a little more robust.
and, yeah.
Well, maybe we need
So,
a
but-
larger acreage for the equestrian center.
Well, maybe that would help.
Because, you know, the equestrian, it's 5 acres.
It's 5
for
acres.
both. I think the equestrian center should be more than 5
Yeah.
acres.
Yeah,
True.
I agree with
if,
you
if
there.
you can
Would it
have,
have to be?
Yeah, it has to
it
be.
would have to be,
Right.
because you can
Yeah,
have
yeah,
more than
yeah.
30 horses.
You know,
Right.
a half acre per horse, so
You're looking at
you
15
15 to begin with.
So I would change that and say 20 acre minimum.
there's your difference.
And that would make a difference.
But you still can have someone with the commercial
See, with
equestrian
with
center,
large letters,
still
I'm
have an
right.
event with 150.
Do you have an extra pen, Corin?
But that's less likely
I got it.
because of the
Oh.
smaller amount of infrastructure to only get to 30 horses.
Still, to have 30 horses though, if they have 30, that's a pretty good size.
Well, they're gonna,
Oh, it's a
if
good size
they're gonna
operation.
be having 30, they're gonna have to come in with the standards and the designs and show us
Right.
that they can
That's
accommodate
gonna change the-
accommodate it anyway.
Yep.
By
Yeah,
yourself
because
to meet.
the size itself would be restricted.
So are you saying minimum acreage of
15, minimum 15, right? Well, that's
That's
30,
30,
half acre per one,
That
that's
would-
15.
We do
Well,
15?
we almost don't even have to require it, because they have to meet the
Yeah.
half acre.
Exactly, but it says it up front, so.
But
it's-
yeah,
Yeah,
make
we
make
would-
it up
right,
front so
It's
you
an
can have a
ambiguity,
clear
so.
Okay,
distinction
Right.
between the two.
okay. Way it's-
And that way they know when they come in, they can say, okay, we're gonna do this, you know, or we're only gonna have 10 horses.
Yeah, we're
and
limited.
do the lower size.
And then it comes down to, is it cleared land or is it just 15 acres?
Yeah,
15 acres,
We don't say.
you didn't say.
See, Auburn
Keep
says
that
cleared land.
easy.
Yeah, I saw.
I saw that, I thought that was interesting.
Horses can live in the woods.
They can, and they also can live on grain.
Yep.
They do.
And it would be fun to have trails out on those 15 acres to go riding on.
Absolutely.
Through the trees.
That's, and
So
that,
that, because that'll keep all the EMTs busy when the horses toss you off. Right into
Run
the
you under a
tree.
low branch.
if we can get any EMTs, I heard what Falmouth did, right?
Yeah, you told me.
Yeah, $25 an hour,
or just an EMT?
no, for paramedic,
Yeah,
Okay.
for a paramedic.
but still, that's $10 more than everybody else.
What, for any call, that's what you have to pay?
No, that's what they're paying,
Yeah.
$25 an hour.
To be
They're
on
sick-
call.
To be on call, you get paid
And I'm
25
sick
bucks an hour.
of competing with other towns, so he said, I'll just price it
300
down
bucks a day for a
basis."
12-hour shift. It's not bad.
That's- Are you kidding?
It's a nice
$10 a
insurance
day?
policy.
It's great. Are you kidding? It's great.
It's a nice insurance policy.
So anyways, all right, so you guys happy with everything else then?
Yeah. it's
Well,
good.
then,
It's,
We have,
we do have the issue of what do we do with the personal estate? Somebody who has,
That's gonna get down to you know, how many dogs and cats, how many horses per house, kind of thing, which we don't regulate right now.
okay,
We do, the point is, at some point, as we grow, at some point that's gonna become an issue. Why don't, and the question, and I think one of the questions I put in there was, is that something we wanna tackle or we wanna leave that for the selectmen?
What, registering?
No, standalone, many towns, I'm telling you, a lot of towns say, how many animals you gonna have in your house, on your property?
I think that's getting a little too far.
we leave that
I
to
do
the
too.
selectmen.
That's
Leave that
correct.
to
I don't
far.
think that's.
That's too far.
I don't like
It
that.
is.
We're
I
not,
don't disagree.
yeah, we'll let that go.
I don't-
Well, the only other thing is unless they wanna do it like a cat, dogs, you have to register them and,
License them.
license them.
But, yeah,
One
There-
of- one
there
of
are
these
communities
days, I'll
that tell
take
you how
my
many
cat
dogs
and
you
have
can
them
have.
licensed, but.
Huh?
We don't wanna be one of those.
I don't wanna do one of those.
I'm saying for your horses, you're gonna
Yeah, but
license.
how many horses you can have and so forth, but I think, the only way
Well,
you
that's
can
the
do that
next
would
thing,
be.
they'll turn around and charge you,
I'm not willing to give it
tax
that
on the
now.
horses.
Good, okay, well, that answers that question.
Good.
But would they, so if I just had my own personal horse, and I
Right,
lived on a 1 acre zone, I'd be all set.
Yeah.
But if I wanted,
The company, the horse with
if I
company.
wanted 3,
yeah,
You wouldn't have
even
enough
though I
land
don't
there.
have enough land,
You wouldn't have enough land. I don't
so
see
you
how
still have
you'd
to
be
meet
able
the land requirements. It's-
no,
if they're
no,
your
if you're,
personal
if you're,
ones.
they're personal horses and you're not doing for commercial purposes, no. Well, and that's the issue. You know, you could have 5 horses on your little 10,000 square foot plot.
I could have 30.
You know, the likelihood of this happening is
Right.
It's very
remote,
remote.
number
That's what I
one.
thought,
And number
yeah.
two, if it becomes a problem, it's because a nuisance, a legal nuisance is created for which there is a remedy for the disgruntled neighbor.
To
So,
move.
You know, call,
Well, but
animal
what-
control
yeah.
officer.
What can they do about it though? It's completely legal,
Our
legitimate.
animal control officers and.
not if there's a nuisance, not if a legal nuisance is created. then there's a
Yeah, 'cause
remedy in
they
the court.
stopped, they stopped a fella down here on, Mountain Road from allowing his
Oh my
dogs to
God.
get out onto the
Okay,
mountain trail
Good point, yeah.
at all.
All right,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, there are recourses that
okay.
can be had.
As long as we have
But that was
That
never recorded in the
was-
minutes.
That was
From the
actually, that was a
selectmen.
trespass, criminal trespass issue. That's how
Correct.
we did it.
Well, yes,
But
but there are recourses that can be had, I mean.
Yeah,
if-
there are recourses. And
Because
the
we
point
were-
is,
Even when we talked about the dog daycare, if you bark all of the time, you're creating a nuisance, and there can be,
a planning board,
ramifications.
and the planning board, and remember, the planning board can't pull a
Yeah.
permit if that occurs.
So there's always something that can happen.
Yeah, but that's gonna be more the selectmen's issue.
That's
for
right,
us.
more than anything. Okay,
All right,
so we got that covered?
Yeah, I think so.
So pretty
All
good.
right,
that
two
one.
changes. Good, right?
that's it, too.
Okay, so the next one,
Did we, excuse
next
me,
one should be
sir,
easy, right?
That was easy.
That's gonna get us,
right, the-
Rich,
we're gonna bang this one out in
Rich.
10 minutes?
Yes,
did
we are.
we
Which one?
include
Oh, yeah.
therapy, the word therapy in there?
That's
Yeah,
a
I
good
think that's
idea.
a good
agree with
idea.
that. I agree with that.
I
do
think
too.
that, yeah,
I agree with that. Therapy
So-
should be in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a good point, good call, Mark. That should be.
I mean, it's helped a lot between children and also your vets
Yep,
and everything else, so I mean,
so therapy too.
so that would be in the commercial and
That's
the
in
center.
Yeah, that's in the
Yep.
commercial and center, which are on this one, though.
Okay, so the next one is animal husbandry,
Oh, here's one.
That's fine.
discussing limitations in the residential district.
Okay. Where, oh, yeah, animal. This one's-
I've got yet another one in here, so you can have that one.
I don't want it. I have so many.
Those are good, those are
They're great,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know, they almost look like a ballpark. Not a ballpark, yeah.
Joe.
Alright, so we're not doing those. Animal husbandry regulations. Sorry guys, didn't get this to you sooner, but, basically, remember, animal husbandry means commercial, production of animals. Usually food-oriented animals. Okay? But not always. Because there are certain more exotic species that are out there, like potbelly pigs, snakes, birds, ferrets, mink. Well, mink are used not for pets. I mean, they exist out there.
sheep,
Yeah, well,
you brought it up before.
yeah, no, and sheep are there. But basically, it's for that purpose. It's not, well, how many chickens can you have on your in your backyard? It's not how many sheep can you have in your backyard. Again, that's an issue of home farming. You know, do we have a problem yet? No, except for the guy across from the town hall whose free-range chickens are, it's all,
A little smelly?
no,
No,
it's bowling for chickens.
Right, crossing the road.
I have
Just
I've watched at least two get it from a
Yeah.
truck going.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll look at your turkeys.
Oh, the turkeys
Turkeys
on
you can
limber are
burst.
terrible.
Yeah, turkeys are awful.
And you'll
And they
replace
fly.
a grill in the
They-
front end if you
They get
have.
up, they get up a couple
Just,
feet,
just high
in
enough to hit a
time.
windshield.
Yeah, I'll take out a windshield, I'll take out a grill, I'll take out a radiator.
And they're wild.
I mean,
Yeah, go ahead. You want me to continue, or you have a question there, Jim?
well, I mean, to me, in the R1 and 2 zones, you know, the one thing that concerns me the most would be a large commercial poultry operation.
Yep.
Right on.
You know, I think lot sizes will self-regulate a lot of other commercial, you know, other farm ventures, except for, you know, somebody wanted to come in and get real entrepreneurial and get a big poultry
Yep.
facility.
Yeah, you
Chicken
could,
house, even though
Right.
they haven't fared well in this
you
state.
could put in quite a few of Cohen Egg Farm buildings
Oh,
into
yeah.
a 2-acre lot.
Oh, yeah.
Look at Benefit.
You could do the same thing with
Go
rabbits.
look in Lyman.
You can do the same thing with mink. Mink farms are that way. They go vertical with minks. And, mink isn't that big anyway, but.
No,
But chicken is, and rabbits aren't that big. But chickens and turkeys, big issue. Chicken's the worst.
yeah, but I think,
So, I mean, that's the issue. That's a big issue, there's poultry right there.
I would agree that they should be excluded from the R1 and R2. The R3, you could make a good argument to exclude them
In R3?
in R3.
The reason I
I
didn't bring
don't know
R three
about
up, I
that.
couldn't remember how we left R three.
I don't know about that,
Yet to
Rich.
be determined.
Okay, when's the
The
proposal
comp plan
to
wants
sort of
us to
merge R
merge.
three with R two?
R2 and R3.
That's what the comp
Yeah,
plan,
right.
and, you know, we need to sit down in a workshop setting, not in a meeting setting with those guys.
So I would include R three in my comment.
Keep them out of Arthur.
Yep.
You know, the big question is you don't want them anywhere. But it's commercial
Chickens,
operation.
boy, those things.
They are an environmental problem.
what's that? Now, your
Chicken-
chickens?
A chicken house essentially, whether it be egg laying or producing for fryers or for, you know, anyway, yeah, I mean, they get them to the point where they're indoor, they can make them free range indoor, they're not in cages, but, you know, they can't even walk, you know, the breast milk.
There's no room.
They can't walk. And they can pump them out in less than a year. It's crazy. It's industrial chicken farming.
Yeah.
And they do the same thing with pigs too, quite frankly.
They do it with veal.
They do it with veal. Right? That's nasty. So, yeah, I figured you guys wouldn't want a chicken house in the R1.
So the question I would have is, what is the definition of a small animal facility? What's a small animal?
A small animal, you know, I think I said in there before, was like rabbits, chicken, for animals, rabbits, ferrets.
Do we put a weight associated with it?
No,
Say they have to
let's
be
get
less than?
rid of weights. Weights have thrown us off, that's why we've got the mess we've got. Weights, you know, the whole animal unit weight thing was based on foraging.
But the
Forage
issue,
crop production estimates.
the issue becomes, we would have to name every small animal. Unless
Or
we come
unless
up
we
with
say,
a way
you're
of
limited to this
defining.
animal. You're only limited to these animals, these are the only ones you can put in there, unless it's
Okay.
special
For commercial,
exception.
for commercial purposes.
Commercial purposes.
Okay, yeah, we could do that.
Well, so we gotta think about, on Campground Road, the folks there that put eggs out for sale. I don't know how many chickens they got, but they got enough to offer their eggs for sale, but is that a big deal? I don't think so. I mean,
No,
we have to
because
be.
it's home
You only have
front.
to, six or eight chickens and you're gonna have enough for sale.
Okay, but to your point of, well, if it's a commercial use, cause you're making pennies off of the eggs,
Yeah.
we gotta be careful of that, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, personally, to me, selling the eggs in a roadside stand is like boarding up a couple of horses to fill your stable. You know, it
Right.
may make you a little money, but is it enough that, you know, it's really a bona fide commercial for-profit type of
Yeah,
venture?
it's a hobbyist.
Right.
You're getting rid of your excess eggs.
Yes,
Well, and, yeah,
that's right.
maybe you make,
It's not
you make
Halloween.
$20 a week and you've got enough to feed the chickens that,
Yeah,
$20 a week on eggs, that's a lot
That's
of
a lot.
That's a good
chickens.
sale.
That's a lot of chickens.
That's a damn good sale.
you know what, I mean, you make a minimal amount.
But some of them
nominal
turn
amount.
around and sell a dozen organic eggs for $5. I mean, I think I've seen that price for, like on Campground Road. It says, dozen eggs, $5, organic, or was it down here on the, right after the school?
Yeah, I know the place you're thinking, but I can't.
But I mean, there was,
I don't remember an organic sign there.
it said organic,
I didn't-
Oh, that's Hills.
huh?
Yeah, that's Hills.
Is it organic?
$5 a dozen?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think they
They
taste
start doing
Yeah,
organic.
well, it's
Yeah.
organic. It's
Yeah.
eating
Yeah.
ticks.
Yeah.
They're free
I like
range
that.
chickens and they're eating ticks.
I'm gonna sell all natural organic right away.
$6 a bundle.
All right, well, maybe we should start with the easy stuff.
Well, no, I think the answer to question number one, do we agree that they should be excluded? I think we do.
Okay.
Which,
Hey, question number one?
Should
Yeah.
industrialized poultry and small animal facilities be excluded in the R1, R2, and R3 districts? I think we pretty much agree that yes, they should be.
I don't know, why R3? What's going on in R3, other than the prospect of it being folded into R2?
They're identical in
Yeah,
all of their
it's
uses.
similar in nature.
R3 is, yeah, and I'm gonna make my pitch once more. R3 was intended to be more of a rural district.
Right.
It was intended to, but none of the standards that would make it a rural district in terms of no cut zones in the front yard along the street. There were a number of design things that never got passed. That the intent of it was to be a step between the R2 district, which is suburban residential, and the rural conservation district, the R4 district, where, yeah, you can have residents at 2 acre zoning, but they were supposed to be hidden from view, and it had a few more, excuse me, rural kind of activities, non-residential activities. Sawmills were one, campgrounds were another. I think we'd have to rethink campgrounds, because the campground originally envisioned is not the campground of today.
Right.
Campground was tent campground, and those have disappeared.
A drag,
It's.
small
yeah,
drag me behind.
Yeah, that's gone. Those are pretty much gone.
They didn't
Why
have a
wouldn't
big
R3
motorhome
not be
then.
folded into R4? Isn't it more
That was a
sensible?
that was a recommendation of the comp plan committee. And the question that I think this group, the board wants to have a sit-down with the comp plan committee and have a powwow on implementing a lot of the things that they had recommended. And talk about, look, if we make the R3 more of a rural district where its intent is to preserve rural character, which is what you're so concerned about, and we do that through design standards instead of large lots, would it be worthwhile for us to actually keep the R3? Because it's a big jump between the R2 and the R4. It's a huge jump in terms of lot sizes, setbacks. And
Why is
uses.
that a problem?
Well, one's a 3 acre zone, one's a 2 acre.
Huh?
It's whether or not you're trying to accomplish that rural character issue, which was a very big issue for this comp plan committee. It has been a big issue for the citizenry in all of our citizen attitude surveys. They want to preserve rural character, and you're not gonna do it with the R4 alone. The R3 is an area in which there's development pressure, but there's a potential to make it look more, or preserve more of its rural character through certain design standards. If not, you're gonna have suburban going right up into the rural.
You're gonna drive from Central Park West into Central Park. You'll go from a seriously overbuilt section of town into a nice neighborhood. I don't know.
I know Central Park might be a little too urban for
That
a
might-
simile for me,
You think?
for an analogy.
A little too
Yeah.
urban.
Yeah, it might be a little too. But, I mean, I don't think we should consider that until we
But
sit
we
down
need to
with these
talk to
guys.
the,
We
to
need
the
to
comp
sit
plan.
down and talk to them, because they wanna
Yep.
participate in this. And if they say, no, we don't agree with you, we wanna see this gone, then we have to make some decisions on that and decide, you know. But the simple fact is, you should consider the R3 like the R2. And I think large warehoused industrial farming really isn't appropriate in the R3. I don't think so. If you look at where the R3 is, I mean, it's
Right.
Senate Road, Lombard Road, and along Old Post
Old
Road,
Post.
basically.
That's about it.
It's Old Post.
Yeah.
It's a small area, it's not a huge area.
Yeah.
It's along also, it's Log Cabin. Big deal.
Back
Log
there.
cabin.
Yeah, log cabin.
Log cabin
Log
from
cabin,
where
yeah.
you,
Log
after you
cabin,
cross
Old
the.
Post,
yeah.
Proctor,
The Proctor, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Proctor.
That could
you
be
put it up in
helpful.
Proctor.
What are we talking, urban development here?
Oh,
Urban renewal.
It's near the airport, it's in the fly zone.
There's a few flies out there.
Now, one
Remember
quick
Proctor's
question to
Forks.
ask. We originally started with the animal husbandry, okay, was for cows. Pennant, raising and whatever else that was the biggest thing. At that time, we weren't going through the idea of all the other things. I originally thought animal husbandry was about the idea of how many cows you can have or anything else.
Yeah, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with how many
Well,
cows, or
we-
how many llamas, how many chickens you can have. That's what we're dealing with. Because, you know, the issue of animal husbandry in the residential zone is really gonna be the issue, and how many you want, how many we should have, is the biggest issue, because we know that the animal unit is a failure.
Is it what?
Is a failure. The animal unit is a failed system, unless you don't want, right now, it prevents you from having any kind of, it doesn't have a requirement for acreage. What it does is it has a requirement for poundage or weight.
Well,
So-
it's not, it was not developed and intended to be used as a land use mechanism,
No,
to exclude ferrets.
you know.
and rabbits.
It was set up for a whole different purpose.
It was set
So,
up for,
I mean, and
but
but it's this, it was the standard that then people tried to morph into a land use
Right.
standard.
Right.
Well, many years
Because, let's
ago,
face it, if you have cows, and, you know, the real failure is that, you know, the pound is, it's not equitable, it's not species specific, and you can create environmental disaster. If you think about it, you're allowed to have 5,000, think about it, you'd be allowed to have 2,500 chickens,
Yeah.
2-pound chickens in the R1
Is that
district.
any better?
That's
Two
bad.
cows.
You'd rather have two cows.
Yeah.
but like I
Exactly.
said, years ago, there were more cows than anything else than people in this town.
Well, I like some of the charts, we can talk about the numbers, but Auburn and Placer County, California, I think doing it that way makes more sense. Is that what we're thinking, just?
That's what I was proposing, is that we do it based on,
The one,
But we're not in California.
the
well, we
one
are.
to Auburn, we're
Actually,
rural in Auburn.
Auburn's stricter than California.
It
Yeah.
is, in some of these.
Yeah, it is.
But one of the downfalls to this is the type of animals that we haven't thought of putting on the list.
And the point is, if it ain't on the list, you can't do it. Well, think emus, you wanna do emus and ostriches?
Well, but how do
I don't
they,
know why not. Will
I
they
mean-
live here?
Not, they don't go through the winter very well,
No.
no.
so then why, I mean.
We
why
already-
spend the
we
whole
already
time
have-
to-
Right.
Well, we don't have emus, but we already have llamas and alpacas.
Yeah,
There's no donkeys on there.
But
so-
do they fall, yeah, I mean, you've got the llamas, alpacas, 6 per acre on the
they're
place county.
equines.
But we'd have to state it as equine, not
If you
horses.
wanted to put equines on there, but,
I just wanna be sure there's not something
they're
we haven't
horses.
thought of. I guess, you know, I'm not gonna get any of these probably, maybe some rabbits, but,
rabbits
But-
are.
The only
What-
rabbits I'm gonna get are the wild ones,
But I mean,
when they come.
I
Well, you
don't
think
see,
that's-
you know, I don't see,
you
I
think
don't see a
that's
big
bad?
push for commercial rabbit operations.
Hey,
No.
But
you
we
think
gotta
that's
take it
bad?
into- We gotta think about it.
No, you
And
think
you know
rabbits
what-
are bad
You know who
because
did it?
I had somebody
John DeKitt.
in my neighborhood, commercially,
That's what they did on that farm.
let loose rabbits, okay? Originally there was 2, now there's like 7 that run around between my shop and, J Brothers.
Yep.
And there's about 7 to 15 of them that run wild.
Coyote will take care of that.
Huh?
Coyote will take care of that.
Coyotes haven't done it yet.
They will.
I kinda like the standards that Auburn has, except for the horses. because they have 1.5 per acre.
I don't understand.
And we've just done something that said you could
Yeah.
have one per half acre.
Half acre.
So I think we'd have to
So,
adjust that
I mean,
down
so
to
I
a
think,
degree.
I mean,
But
but
it's
that's
2 per
very,
acre,
that's consistent with the Placer County.
yeah. Yep,
And then, I mean, ultimately, people who are looking to do, you know, a basic agricultural operation aren't looking to go into a, you know, a net density type of calculation to figure out how many horses or cows they can put. They know if they have 12 acres, they wanna put 20 horses in, or cows in, then that's okay, 24, whatever it is. You know, keep it straightforward, and just, you know, just conceptually, I don't see any issue with the Placer County. You know, it seems consistent with what we talked about with horses, you know.
I wonder how they came up with a maximum of 19.
Because it then kicks into another zone. These
Oh,
are
for
for,
them, yeah.
this is for this is for something comparable to our agricultural, it's their, what they call residential agricultural zone,
Mhm.
okay? So,
It's not industrial.
no, it's not, it's not their heavy agricultural
Yeah.
zone, it's,
Makes
it's the,
sense.
it's a,
You
it's
know,
the,
one
For
of
our
the things-
purposes, though, we'd be looking at 1 per acre.
for what?
Swine, pigs.
And that's the only one of these that I could really look at and think, hold on, do we really wanna have
That's the issue.
That's a
1 per
lot.
acre of pigs up to how many?
Problem with pigs is, it's the number, it's quantity of pigs causes more problems than having raised a couple.
Right,
A couple pigs weren't a problem.
right.
It's a herd of pigs that are a problem.
Well, and they're,
Maybe you should have a max.
tend to be, you know, penned, not
Yeah.
out just
Oh, they're
free
not-
range
Yeah,
type of.
yeah.
They can be in a pasture.
Well, right.
Yeah, and that's,
They break out.
Oh, they're
They eat
good at
everything.
that.
Oh, yeah,
they,
they're
well,
excellent.
and they are,
They can get nasty,
make a prolific stink.
and they make a huge stink.
I can remember when there was one on the mountain road back when I was a kid.
Yeah,
Smell that thing at Dayton.
Yeah,
How many-
Andes.
And
Yeah.
how big was that? I mean, how many pigs do you think were there?
I think. A couple
Not
hundred.
too many.
Yeah. He had a fair amount.
The-
Like this
But-
sign-
Are we talking scores?
Like
We
it or
talking
not,
100?
we
What
raise-
are we
We're
Huh?
talking
Scores?
more than a few score.
Oh, really? So about
Yeah.
100?
oh,
Yeah,
Oh, that'll
100,
cause a
maybe even
huge
more.
problem. That'll cause-
That's-
That's
yeah.
a problem.
So, is it
But
question
he was
on-
also way off the, it
Yeah.
wasn't seeded and everything else.
That's
You can
true. I
still
will give
smell.
him that. You could not see him,
But
but you
can see
knew
him.
you
Knew he
were
was
in the
there.
neighborhood.
And that's, and you know, let's face it, that's the biggest issue. The biggest issue, with pigs is gonna be that, and
Well,
that's why we have one, you know, that's why swine were 2/8, one,
I think that's gonna be the biggest issue, no matter what you have.
that's
Be
right.
it horses, cows, chickens,
Yeah.
pigs, that's gonna be the issue.
Chickens and
They
pigs are
stink.
gonna be the worst on that. Horses
Chicken
don't
and
make
pigs.
that,
Not bad.
Yeah,
cows can,
not like pigs or chickens.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Pig-
like that.
chickens and pigs are gonna be.
I think, horses really shouldn't even be.
They were, I just put it in there to let you
Yeah,
also
'cause
know
we already
that,
have those.
when we
taken care of.
nailed that, we nailed it.
Yeah,
When we
So
got
just-
that at one
So we
horse
just
per
take that one out.
half
Right.
acre, we nailed
But
it.
I would tend to think though, because people are gonna ask us, you know, about animal husbandry and horses, and we simply, our standard is 2 per acre, 1 per half acre. So just stick it in there, it doesn't hurt to put it in, and it
Okay.
just duplicates.
not a bad point, yeah. Why
Yeah.
not?
So the question, and I think these acre, well, I think this'll work in the R1, I don't know. You tell me. I mean, 1 pig, you got a 1 acre residential lot.
Now, what size pig? Are you raising the pig? Are you raising a pot-belly pig? Or you turn around raising a pig for, so you can slaughter it for,
It doesn't matter?
Yes.
yeah.
It does matter. What if you're raising pot-bellied pigs for sale? for the purposes of selling it to, because it's a pet. It's not a good, it's not. You're a
It's like
breeder.
breeding cats or dogs, I mean,
So we went from having a puppy mill to having a hog mill.
yeah.
Well, they're kinda cute. I don't understand it,
Could
but I
have
don't
a
want them in
pig
my
for a
living room.
pet.
I've seen people turn on, I've seen them as have a pot-bellied pig. I've seen truckers, okay, actually have a pot-bellied pig rise with them as if it was a dog or anything else.
Oh, yeah. Well, Arnold
That's-
Ziffel was the valedictorian of
That's
his
because
class.
if they ever get hungry, they've got food like
Well, look at the airlines. They just turned around and changed the rule about,
service animals.
Yeah, some were pigs.
yeah, it was a pot-bellied pig.
I don't know,
Oh,
I'm
man.
not used to that.
Really.
I, you know,
But,
I don't know, it's like,
now, this will be townwide.
Somewhat.
So that way, I think.
Unless you wanna have different, I mean, the only other way to do it is to have different
I think,
acres for different
and
zones.
that starts getting
Oh,
unwieldy.
it's gonna get really complex.
I think this would be simple, and we also, one of the big reasons why we're looking at that is because of the Pinette Farms.
Pinette Farms,
and-
and there's other landowners, you know, I should have brought it. If I show you a map that John Bell did one half, I did the other half of parcels in the town based on acreage, there's still a lot of large acres, farms
Yeah.
or large acre zones in the R1 and in the R2 district.
Then we have to ask, first, we put them in the R1 zones, and so they didn't ask, they might have had intention, but
Right.
on the other hand, it's been that way for, 20 years now, and
yeah.
so the neighbors, how will they feel? We're gonna have to deal with the neighbors at public hearings, so that
We're
we're
gonna,
gonna be allowing
we're gonna
cows
have
and
to
pigs
address,
next door to them.
And that's
poultry
that's
issue.
why we're gonna have it, much more public input on this issue than we did even on the horses.
Yeah.
I think really, most people can stand a horse next to them, you know, even a
Right.
stable next to them, but,
and you might even be able to put up with one cow or possibly even two cows next door to you.
Right.
You get, I know, you put 6 or 8 chickens in my neighborhood, those chickens come onto my yard, they're gonna find their way into my pot.
and, well,
Roosters.
sheep can get nasty too. But, I don't mind. But a lot of people don't like the smell of sheep.
I think along with all these numbers, there should be,
Goats.
more
Goats are-
setbacks.
Well, I mean, we haven't even gotten to that one yet, but, I mean, into the performance standards, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at those performance standards, they're kinda lame, you know? Oh, did I not give you? Oh, that's on a separate sheet, it's on a separate sheet. The existing performance standards for animal husbandry. It's really loosey-goosey, guys. And I have,
But we can look at reviewing all of those
all right,
at
we'll
some
look
point.
at that, we'll look at that
I
next
think you're
phase.
right, getting some
need
input from the public to
Yeah,
come here
yeah,
and
we're
tell
not
us.
even at that
Well, I
point.
need to get input from you guys as to
Yeah.
which direction to go.
I think this type of chart works well.
All right.
I'd go with either set of numbers. We're looking at
I think
which
that-
set?
I think the poultry numbers might be a little bit high, 18 to 24 per acre, where are you gonna be? I got 6 acres, I can put 144 of them suckers on my property,
If
Well,
you
but
mean
and then I'm gonna
But
invite
then
everybody.
we're gonna-
clear land.
But we were gonna talk about the exclusion of poultry in anything but the R4. Commercial
Okay,
poultry.
Well, to what
Commercial,
degree?
right,
Cause somebody,
commercial.
what if somebody wanted, all right, so you're saying no commercial poultry in the R1 altogether?
Right.
Well,
That's
yeah,
what we were talking
Right.
about.
Oh, wow. So,
Now, but remember, we also, we tagged along on that in that, somebody having, a dozen chickens to sell some eggs along the side of the road is
it's not.
not gonna be what we
commercial
think of
poultry.
as commercial
Right.
poultry.
right. Okay, so we're saying no chickens in the R1. How
No,
much-
No commercial.
No
Commercial.
commercial, no industrialized.
Industrial, commercial,
No chickens for commercial purposes in the R2, R1.
R1, R2, and R3, based on
R2.
that first question.
Yeah.
All right, so Pennant can't have R2, can't have chickens.
chickens.
Okay, he didn't want chickens anyway, he's got cows.
So, but
Well, he's
remember,
got chickens
we
too.
were talking
Yes.
about large-scale poultry
So
operations.
we need to have it, then,
Right.
if we're saying, look, if you wanna have, you know,
Right.
have a few chickens and you're gonna, I'm gonna sell I'm gonna sell a roaster to you. Is that a commercial operation or?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to be careful.
We're gonna have to be
We're gonna have to be, we're gonna have to be creative in our defining of things, okay? Rather than the setting of numbers or weights or
Yeah.
anything. I think that's where we wanna be, because I don't think we wanna
we don't want to
chill
scare
some of the
people
operations that are underway right now
Right.
that have been,
Yeah.
right?
And if we get people who currently are in the R1 or R2 and have chickens, we'll get some feedback from them.
Yeah, if they think we're trying to eliminate it altogether.
Yeah, if they're selling them, I mean, how many people have in the R1 and R2 and R3 that are selling chickens?
Probably more than a few.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
Oh,
I
yeah.
guarantee you,
Yeah,
up and down.
I know at least 3 right off the top of my head.
Really? There's-
Yeah.
oh, Wow.
Do you raise enough to sell it as meat or
These are meat chickens?
Sell the
or
chickens.
We're breeding them to sell,
to sell?
including exotic
Yeah.
varieties of chickens,
Oh,
yep.
okay.
You got your black chicken,
We make the green eggs, yeah.
So then we have the question, should free ranging be permitted?
Well, I think the answer is natural selection down on Limerick Road. I
Yeah.
still live in Louisiana, and I'll tell you, everything was free ranging there. It
Yeah.
was like slaloming. And after a while, it wasn't slaloming around them, it was slaloming to hit them,
Yeah.
Because they were all over the
When
road.
you're,
So you must have an automatic appoint name.
No
when you're
comment.
concerned about the loss of your commodity, free ranging will stop.
That's
It will
right.
stop very quickly.
It will stop.
Free
Or-
ranging
or won't
Started
even
with
start.
6 chickens on
Yeah.
Sunday, and by Friday you had 2.
Right.
If that bothers you, you will
Your
keep
chickens.
them in it somewhere.
Make a large enough pen
Okay.
for them to be able to feed, put them in the garden.
But we're gonna let them do free ranging if they want to. They're
Sure,
chickens.
if they want to.
I think
Well,
so.
Okay.
I think we have to say they can't be on roads.
We
You have to
already,
pen them from, we already do, we already said that.
and you're never gonna keep them off the roads. Chickens are all over the place.
Yep, they are.
They always have a way of flying over whatever fence you put up, unless you can put up an aviary. All
And
right,
we've got, I think we have enough natural predators around here that it becomes,
Yeah.
it becomes self-policing,
Right.
almost.
that leaves trucks are proving to work out here. Should be, it's not just
Okay.
Bentley, I mean, everybody's driving.
What?
Yeah, it is. Pretty much everybody's.
All right, so, sounds good. So my marching orders then are to essentially, do you want me to develop this out and see if I can find some more animals? I mean,
I don't,
You know,
No,
I don't
I
we
think
should do that. I
you're
mean,
picking,
I think this is.
you're
enough.
picking to,
I think so.
Well, how about things like mink, and, I mean, mink farms can be nasty too. They're not big, I mean, there aren't that many people do mink.
unless we're gonna say that, yes, you can have them, then by definition you can't. They're part of an omitted uses. So we
Well,
have to
then
identify.
if we say
what
that, then I gotta construct this, say, here are the animals that you can raise in this town.
no. It's like turning and saying you can't bring different races to move into town. White, black, green, or whatever, I mean,
No, that's, Marty, we already have omitted uses.
And I will tell you this, Chip will probably personally thank us if we don't allow belted Galloways into the town.
We exclude them.
We exclude them
I saw
completely.
somebody asked a question about buffalo.
I did.
Okay.
yeah, they're already raised here in town.
We could have
Yeah.
some fun with him by putting that in.
Just
Just like a fake draft, you know?
I give him one.
We already got as
Send him
of,
one. Let's
Yeah,
watch what
wouldn't that be
happens.
I don't
funny?
know.
And say nothing. We gotta deadpan that.
as is Buffalo, we are raising them here.
Are we?
Yeah.
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 I hadn't seen him around.
He's,
So
uh,
what about
Ben
that?
Medora.
Yes.
So I might wait until.
All
they're
right.
all
Open the
done.
door.
Does he have buffalo down? I hadn't
Is that a
seen him.
bullfight? Would they fall into the bovine?
Yes.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
they
You
would,
would?
yeah, they would.
Yeah.
And that's why I put bovine down,
Yeah.
I answer my own question there, because they are.
Yeah.
Nasty. anybody that raises them in a pen usually finds out that.
We got another, how about goats?
Goats need to be in there. I don't have a standard for goats.
What's the?
And everybody does goats.
Yeah,
I mean, goats are big.
so we'd have to look at that.
Newbie-
So yeah, the
Why-
question may be, what are we going to allow?
Goats are probably gonna be the same as sheep.
Sheep,
Yeah.
yeah, it's,
Oh, I think you're actually gonna have more goat, in terms of carrying capacity, goats don't require the same amount.
No, goats eat anything and everything, including your poison ivy and everything else.
That's right.
The
So the
problem with goats
foraging
is that they're
does-
gonna eat it right down to the ground.
Yeah, that is the problem.
Didn't
Well,
say-
sheep
so
do
does
too.
sheep.
Sheep take it
Do
right
they?
down. Oh, yeah.
Do they?
yeah, they do.
That's why cattlemen have always historically hated them, because
Because they
rip the
turn
grass
out,
right
the
off.
grazing,
Yeah,
because of grazing, sheep eat,
everything. They just take it right down to the ground,
Okay.
so.
I can tell I'm not much of a farmer.
All right, so then I'll come up with standards,
We do
and
that from your-
it'll be as
your,
simple, we'll start working on
Central
the
Park
standards
reference.
again. This is a very simple method.
I used to
And
walk
I'll
the
put it
highways in
together.
Brooklyn over to Central Park, it's
Yeah,
about
I'm
about a 10-mile trip
Don't
each
yellow
way.
this version. So, buffalo stay, beefalo stay, cattle, dairy cow, obviously. I'm sure I'm gonna hear from Ben about, you know, the density.
no.
You know, he might be a good person to
Oh,
to give us some
I will
information
talk-
about it.
I will talk to him about it. He comes into my office fairly regularly, so next time he's in, I'm gonna say, what do you think the density?
Okay, so
He'll
you've
talk
got,
to you
you've
about his
got some stuff
tractors.
to play with on that one.
Yeah, he actually talks about dairy a lot, because he really wants to start a dairy farm again, so.
Now, here's a good question about your animal husbandry,
Yeah.
okay? Now, the other thing is, your fact of your different animals, years ago, the different farms around here, okay? They were told they were raising milk cows or anything else, and they were raising pigs and they were raising chickens, okay? The state or agriculture stepped in and said you could not raise all three at the same time.
I have to talk to William Monroe about this too.
But the fact is that,
Ask him about that.
because if beef eating cow and beef milking cow,
Yeah.
it's two different categories. So, I mean, it's like, if you're raising beef for the hoof, for the table, I mean, and not milking it, there's not as much care. Because a lot of times your cattle, I'm gonna call it cattle that way, are free ranging
Yeah,
in comparison to your milk cow, where they have to be kept and taken care of.
bag bomb,
Yeah.
yep.
And that also too can happen too at the same time with your goats.
Yeah, well, mixing goats and sheep sometime isn't a good idea.
No, and I'm not saying mixing your, but also too, many times if you're raising cheese, goat cheese. So,
Well, I mean, you know,
I'm throwing out different ideas.
No, and, you know, I think I put in there that I'm waiting for something from Wayne, you know, from NRCS, because they said they could provide us with some information. He did provide me with some information on horses, unfortunately, after we did it, but I wanted to get his input on this stuff. So now that I know which way you're going on this, I'll probably call Wayne up and say, here's an idea, can you give me your input on this? You know, how this should work. Because he deals with, obviously, with a lot of, you know, with agriculture. Now, guys up at agriculture, I'm not sure, I know a couple of guys up at the Department of Agriculture, I might be able to call and talk to and see about those concerns that you're talking about.
Yeah,
I'll
I
see if
mean,
they can tell me anything, but they're more like enforcement. kind of
well,
guys.
what I'm saying is there was different farms that turned out they used to supply, like T-Sisters around, that was used to be in Bedford. What are you laughing at?
I haven't heard about T-Sisters since I was a little kid.
No, I'm saying it's,
I didn't know it had.
they used to sell the beef.
It's where, the police station is now.
No.
They were across the
T's,
street.
no, T-Sisters is not that. T-Sisters was originally across the street from Bayous. Coco's was down where the police station was.
No, Coco's was on the other
No.
side.
Coco's was where the police station was.
I
I
haven't-
visited it many a time.
I had an office there in
The
the
police station?
early eighties, and he was across the street. I was up
After
above,
Coco's.
Oh, after Coco's, okay, I got you.
up above Grady's, and he was across from Feinberg's.
You guys can talk it out.
Yeah, I don't, what's
Yeah,
that?
thank you.
I just,
Next.
Okay,
okay, so the next thing on the list is the,
Landscape.
changes to landscape and buffering on 5.9.
I'm not proposing any changes.
Yeah, I don't see anything.
how about one thing?
Okay. Which one? Ah, gotta get my glasses back. Oh, well, that won't work, because that's equestrian activities.
I had wondered about paragraph 5.9.2.
Exempted activities? Oh, no,
Correct.
this one. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, that's in the new one.
Reference to and municipal uses,
What are you saying, 5.9?
5.92.
Oh, exempted activities, okay.
Yeah.
Why, and my question is, why should the town be exempt?
They shouldn't.
They
be.
shouldn't be. They wanna turn around, make, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Well, I think in the structure the town's gonna be putting up is a way to lead the,
Mhm.
be a good example.
It's also a lightning rod for being opposed to
Right,
this.
people can,
Yeah.
We're gonna make everybody else do it, we should make the town do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Put it in their budget, we're paying for it anyway.
No, I think, no, I mean, you know, you're right, with certain facilities, we're going to,
Or
We
they're
should
making
put
it,
it-
or they're
absolutely.
making it easier so they can turn around and go riding on the Eastern Trail, the parking lot, so they don't have to see everything.
okay. I'm okay with that, everybody all right with that?
Yeah,
Okay,
I am.
good, terrific.
That was it.
So at least we can say we
That's our
revised it
change.
for the
We
next
made
time.
it,
we made revisions.
there's our revision.
Yeah, we heard you.
That's right.
The question on,
we heard something.
the other question, you know, and do you, I'm gonna continue with the manual, I'm gonna proceed with that manual. The recommended trees, I'm gonna just put, I'm gonna put some, design, I'm gonna put details in there. So it's easy, you know, people could actually copy them and just slap them onto there.
The manual, the American Standard Nursery Stock, that,
No, recommended street treat manual, you know, it's referenced in it,
oh, yeah,
you know, and I did the list.
yeah,
And then I started going a little further and saying, okay, here are the trees that you should use for a parking lot, because they're salt tolerant, you know, because they're blah, 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 blah. Here are the trees you wanna use under a power line, because they don't get over 25 feet, or they don't get over 10 feet, you know? And I was thinking, since we have these design standards for, let's say, you know, we keep talking about buffering, how to do a buffering. Do a design, you know, basically a detail, a section, on how to do a buffer, an evergreen buffer. Same thing with a berm. When we hear of, oh, berm, how the berm should be. There's specifications in here, but just do a drawing, a real quick section showing a detail of what a berm should be built like, so to make it easy.
yeah.
And
So it's just more a few visuals.
yeah, it's more visuals. And we can either put it in the text, which makes the thing longer, or we just have it as a separate guide. Probably as a separate guide would be better. All right, you guys agree?
Yeah,
Okay.
just take a little time on your part to.
I don't care, it won't take that.
It's a
I've got the,
hobby anyways.
I'll get the draw on here. Give me a chance to draw something.
So that was quick, we got that one out.
There you go.
I'll change it next week.
It was a great
Excellent
idea.
leadership
It was a
on
great
the,
idea to move it down to the
on
last
the-
item.
Yeah, right. Otherwise, we would have talked about it for 45 minutes.
That's right.
That's a trick, you want it to get fly by, you put it at the end.
Good.
Good call, Marty.
Other business? Is that on there?
Yes,
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Anything to report for the plan?
On record or off record?
On
On
record.
record.
All,
We
all
got
of
we
the
got a
business
busy
is on
meeting
record.
the next time around.
Do we?
Yeah, we have, in our next meeting, we have two items that, got their stuff in. One is gonna be, Motorland. They wanna show us their design stuff. And, the second one is, Peter Lovejoy subdivision.
Who?
Peter Lovejoy subdivision, or
Yeah.
Elizabeth's Way.
Yeah.
They're gonna be requesting an amendment to the findings of facts and the notice of decision. They would like to, supersede the, I forget which number it is, but there's a provision in there that no building permits can be issued until the town engineer has certified that the road is in fact built to the standards. They're gonna be asking that be replaced with a bond.
So those
He
are
sold
our
the
two
house.
items
They
for
can't-
next,
they
for
can't-
That's
next
all we
time?
have for next time.
For
He's on the
February
He sold
8th?
the lot,
It's
he can't
grown,
rebuild it.
Okay, I'm gonna be out then, which is probably okay, cause I would have had to recuse on Peter's
Okay,
stuff,
okay.
or abstain, I should say,
No,
Nope.
recuse.
Recuse works.
okay?
Assuming you had a conflict of interest of some sort. Yeah, refuse.
So, we're gonna need a full quorum. Is Roger gone, do you guys know?
Yeah,
Is Roger
he's
gone?
out,
He's
yeah,
gone.
he's
He's gone till
south.
March or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's AWOL.
I'll
We'll
take
all
that
have to be
back.
here and make sure that Chip shows up too.
Yeah, because we'll need him. So that, those
Yes,
are the only two
my-
items. And I'll ask Chip if he wants to put one of these, if I get anything done in the next 2 weeks on.
Well, and don't forget, we wanna see the town plan, the town planner, the town manager.
Yeah.
Town manager, all right,
All right, question, turn on, in the idea of a bond,
yeah.
okay? A bond,
It'll probably be an escrow.
well, bond is not necessary, I mean, cause we played with bonds before.
It's a performance assurance. You guys are gonna be able to pick what you want, if you wanna do it.
I'm just saying, because with that particular road with being, in the past of not being tarred, a development, I mean, and then, cause, somehow the bond lapsed and then everything else, that's why I'm questioning the idea of a bond.
Yeah, I misspoke. It's a performance assurance. I'm not big, I don't mind bonds. Actually, letter of credits I'm less thrilled about because those do expire and I don't accept them. Letter of credits are 1 year. I won't take a 1 year letter of credit. They haven't given me the instrument yet of what they propose to do. And the amount is something we have to discuss. But that's what they would like to do. What we have is, the people who'll be showing up, Peter will probably come, but there'll be two property owners who have bought the lots out there, who have bought the lots and they would like to build, and they can't build because the road's not completed. The road's not completed because it hasn't been finalized at this point. It's missing some key items, and, we're shut down, you know, that's it. You don't work at this time of year on road building. You can do a lot of stuff, but road building, no. And because one of the biggest things is it's gotta be reshaped. You ain't gotta reshape frozen material at this point.
No,
You're not gonna bring in frozen material. And it has to be loamed and seeded, and you're certainly not gonna do that this time of year, because everything's covered with snow and ice. So, and there's bituminous has to be laid down, and the bituminous plants are closed, so, these are non-remedy, these can't be remedied till spring. And a lot of the stuff may not be able to happen until the roads are no longer posted too. So, because you gotta bring a roller down, and you won't be able to bring a roller down if that road's posted. I don't think it is generally, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think Limerick
I
Road is.
don't
I don't
think
think
it is
roads
posted.
being
I
posted.
don't don't think it is posted.
No,
So he'd be okay on that, it's just,
Yeah, wherever it comes.
however, it was where you'd have to come from,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. That's a logistical issue. But that's what they'll be discussing, they'll be requesting a change to the findings of fact, so,
You said
So-
represented?
no. Not to my knowledge, not represented. I dealt with Peter and the two property owners, Monday morning they walked to my office, this thing. So. That's that, and I didn't even know they were coming.
question along that way.
Yeah,
Did we get a, road maintenance agreement before before any lots were sold or anything else? There was supposed to be a road maintenance agreement.
we have a road maintenance agreement that Dan Rush did put together. It hasn't, I need to see it signed and filed.
I'm just saying, there's a thought.
No, thanks for bringing it up, it's a good point, that would be part of the closeout on the road, is I need to see that. In fact, no, actually, I need to see it now.
Yeah,
They
because you
brought
can't
that-
sell any lots
Yeah, he-
before you had a road
Yeah.
maintenance
Good
agreement.
That's a good point,
Yeah.
thank you, yeah,
He brought that to you on Monday?
yeah, I think it was Monday.
He didn't make the 14-day, well, yeah, he does, okay,
Yeah.
never mind. I keep thinking it's
17
next
days.
week, it's not,
We've
it's
got
2
a-
weeks away.
No, it's 2 weeks away. We made it by Thursday, actually, they did it on Wednesday.
I'm just trying to lighten the load.
I told him
for
to
the next
bring a
meeting.
couple other things, and it's sort of be complete.
But yeah, he's gonna have to have that.
It's a good thing to bring up. Actually, I'll mention to them and say, bring your road maintenance agreement. And as soon as I hear that. He sold it before, I know he sold it before they were pinned, because I went ballistic on. You blame the owners for this? No. The owners made sure it was pinned. Because I said, hey, what are you doing with that? You shouldn't be owning this, it needs to be pinned before you own it. They said, oh, well, okay. So Paul sent me a letter and told me, he went out a week ago, he got it paid. So it's just been paid. So yeah, he sold this stuff before he was supposed to do it. But the biggest thing is these
I'm
guys,
not surprised.
he could not, you know, he couldn't get it all done before the snow. He was hoping he could get another week or something. Because the plant stayed open all the way through November until the
Yeah.
snow.
Oh, they were
Yeah,
open until
They were
almost
open in December.
mid-December.
Yeah, they were open in December too, then the
Yep.
big snow came and that was it. They shut down. I'm just as well, cause you don't wanna put down bituminous at that time of year. It's just not a good idea, usually breaks up. So, then let's see, what else do I have? I have, a number of other things, haven't heard anything more. We've had our meetings with, the folks, the restaurant that wants to buy, that's in the process of buying, the old Sam Hill Tavern.
Where's that?
That's going well, that's the big, that's,
Where in San
Yankee
Francisco?
Fireplace.
Right on the corner, it's Yankee Fireplace now.
Oh,
the
yeah.
restaurant that's moving out of the
Used to
Hennebont.
be a great restaurant.
Say that again?
They're gonna reestablish, they're looking to, reestablish a restaurant, a high-end restaurant in Sam Hill Tavern, so it's gonna go back to its former use.
Where the grill place is, the fireplace?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Same owner, the owner is renting it to somebody else, or?
They're selling it outright, and this is a restaurateur who's buying it outright. And I've been dealing with the architect and Jim and I have been dealing with the architects and landscape architects and the engineers over,
What's the restaurant that's moving?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say right now. Because I think there's some other negotiations and all that. Yeah. But, I've met with the prospective owner, and frankly speaking, we're considering it to be a resumption of use. It's not really a change, it's a permitted use in that district. They wanna get going, so they don't, I told them they had to move a couple of parking spaces, cause there's a parking space right by the entrance, which is stupid. Because it's a hazard, so they're gonna move it over. they aren't gonna hit any of the criteria that's gonna require planning board review.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
well, Vinegar Hill didn't either.
Yeah.
So, and that's a credit to the planning board. Because if this was, what, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, they would have had, both those operations would have to come, because we didn't have permitted uses back then. Remember, everything was conditional use, and you had, if you sneezed, you had to come to the planning board. So this board came up with the permitted uses and conditional uses, and it has made it easier for businesses to move in.
Well, that's a
without-
good press release for Duke Carrington.
It would be a good thing, but when it happens, it will happen. But we never got, you never got, I didn't give you accolades for Vinegar Hill when they moved in, and Harrington was extremely thrilled about that. He was ready to come to the planning board, and we went over all this stuff, and I said, none of this stuff qualified. The improvements to the parking lot were maintenance improvements, no expansions, you know. Changing the use was permitted use, those were all permitted uses, so,
Mm.
you know, it was, and there was no change in the ADT.
Cool.
So hats off to you guys.
And then,
One thing
Yes,
on that, check to make sure, because at one time or another, when it was Sam Hill Tavern and everything else, they had checked about their septics.
we did,
I mean, I'm going back because
yeah.
they had to come back because of, and put in something different, I mean, because I knew some of the different chefs that were there, that's why,
They put in concrete chambers,
yes,
which is great. Because they have,
grease,
For the grease?
yeah.
but
and
they
it
also
looks-
had other thing
Well,
problems
they
too.
had, but they have concrete chambers underneath, part of the parking and beyond the parking. So if they ever need to expand parking, they aren't gonna upset their septic, which is terrific. So when they go into vents, which I'm sure these guys at some point they're gonna probably come back to us at some future date when they expand parking, because they'll have to do that with us. And when they do that, the concrete chambers are in place, so
Mm.
they won't have to rip up their septic, and the septic's in great shape, because it hasn't had the
Right,
impact
it hasn't
from the
been.
stove shop, it's
Right.
nothing, you know? So, that's looking really good, we were real thrilled about that report.
Is this stove shop moving?
I think they're just leaving, they're just going out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Retiring.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they actually, the stove shop is really owned from Massachusetts. Okay, because the fireplace, there's the original home office is in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Okay,
And
so
this
this
is
is just
an
a satellite,
Huh?
this is just a satellite store?
Correct.
No, they'll wanna move their inventory.
Is there anything else?
No,
Wait a
that's,
minute,
oh, yes, apparently there is.
yeah, anything on how the gravel pit?
Yeah, good, that's a
Yeah,
good question.
It was, well, you're talking about Gronden.
Yeah, but I mean,
Well, we told
I know they're
Gronden,
doing it, but have with the town.
they,
Thank
they,
you. Yeah, there is something, I thank you for bringing that up, because I needed to report this, because the town manager came into my office this week, and he came up and said, I want you to convey to the planning board the Board of Selectmen's thanks to the planning board for their expeditious processing of that application. Because what it did is it took care of a nagging problem that has been bothering the town and the selectmen for decades, and everybody's thrilled, the selectmen are thrilled. The planning board was able to expedite in a way that, to solve the problem.
No, we beat it around the bush hard, but I mean,
we did.
Couldn't
But
have
we
been a
got
bad
it,
solution
we-
though,
Jens
We
came
came up
up
with-
with a great solution for it.
yeah.
yeah,
That, but he sat here and he said, well, when can we start doing it? And I said tomorrow, and I talked to Keith, and they started the next morning.
Yeah, I bet.
Trucks were rolling.
I bet you.
Oh, were they? That's.
Yeah. They
Yeah,
went
that's
straight
good.
out and they had a bunch of trucks that day.
So I work with Jeb anyways, because Jeb is, he's the deputy super up at Gronda's work on the cottages. And so I deal with Jeb once a month on drawdown meetings. So I'll probably go out and keep tabs on it.
I saw today, I was going by, I saw one of the trucks. There was one rock in the back of the truck.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That big?
Oh, there's huge rocks up there. They just.
Are they
They're
bouldery or?
boulders, yeah.
Oh, no, they're boulders and not, it's not rough ledge?
No, they just don't want, they don't want to spend the money on blowing them up.
Right.
They should just try and sell them. People pay big money for those things.
Yeah, it's big money to transport it. But keeping it on site, the problem is you keep these on site, and they got a whole bunch on site,
Yeah.
that's taking up space.
Yeah.
And they have to move it to, to
Yeah.
do stuff, and that's just, it's.
No, no, if they're big round ones, they're not particularly
Yeah.
sightly anyway.
No,
Yeah, you have to have a face on them.
I'm just,
That's exactly right.
Because they're
That's what
landscaping.
graduating classes are for, they paint all sorts of
That's
faces.
right.
No, no, I remember when we did for Budapest, in Wildwood.
anybody have anything else?
Anything from,
I think we did.
Log Cabin Road?
J.
Jay
Brothers.
Brothers?
J Brothers.
No,
Okay,
no. What are we gonna do at this time of year?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I should share that, I volunteered to be, on the new town hall building committee. So, I don't know what I'm in for, but
I'll be there with you.
we will,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
I asked to be, believe it or not, just like you.
I did too, just to make sure.
I just wanna
That's
make sure.
good,
the
that's
site
really
was
good,
done
that's
properly.
good you did that. I was thinking about that, but you jumped on that,
If you
so
really
good for
wanna
you.
do it, I won't step aside for you.
Hey,
Well, no,
Ted,
no,
why
I-
didn't-
Thanks, Tom.
No, I think
Or
it
else
would-
you guys get tag team.
Yeah, I think it would be, I think I felt it was important for someone from the planning, I didn't know you were gonna be on, which I'm glad you are. But if someone from the planning board to be on, because they'll have to come before us.
Yeah. Yeah, they
No,
are.
they
Why
don't.
won't you?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
do.
They're a
Of course
municipality,
they do.
they can do anything they want.
School
they-
had to
they
come
think
before
They've
they
us.
already talked
But
about
they have to
it.
come
No,
to
they
us.
have to, no, they know they have to do an application.
Well, we sent them a small signal tonight, right?
That's another one, yeah. You might not have to do stormwater, but you have to do our landscape. That'll
Okay.
get passed.
Anything on the property down on the, where Lenny Van Gaspy used to have, where the,
I haven't heard anything on that. I was dealing with a machine shop that wanted to go in there.
yes,
I haven't heard anything else from Martin, so I don't know.
Quick, make a motion.
Motion's been made, I think. Didn't we already have a motion
No.
and seconded for adjournment?
No,
Okay.
No, wishful thinking.
You entertain a motion to adjourn, member?
Absolutely. Second, somebody give me a
Second.
second. Okay, we're done.
Okay.